Okay, we're getting a little bit into philosophy. How do we know that? Well, everything that had a beginning had a cause, right? 2 cars, boom, accident. You walk up. Wow, was there no cause for this? No, of course there was a cause. Every effect has got to have a cause. That's the law of causality. You with me here?
Yeah.
That's obvious, right? Why are you sitting in your seat? What was the cause? You put yourself there. Hello? This is not deep, okay? Everything that had a beginning had a cause. Number 2, the universe had a beginning. Therefore, the universe had a cause. You with me here? You're just breaking this down logically. I'm not using Bible. I'm not using nothing. I'm just breaking down pure logic philosophy. Well, how do we know the universe had a beginning? That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, snap! Oh, he's prepared.
In the beginning, we got to figure out, how do we know the universe had a beginning? Right? Did the universe always exist?
No.
No, that's not true. Well, how do we know a lot of these things? Well, we're gonna break this down here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about all this, because these are the questions that we've got to be able to answer. Because in order to be able to answer this stuff, in order to be able to rather confirm all this stuff, right, we got to figure out, well, what was the cause that made the universe begin, right? You with me so far?
Yeah.
Did I confuse you?
Nope.
Okay. What was the cause that had the universe begin? So let's examine this here. The first is the second law of thermodynamics. Who knows the second law of thermodynamics?
The second. I don't even know the first.
Nothing is created. Yeah. And that just
Thermodynamics. Okay, here's the deal.
created or lost. Nothing's created or transferred.
Okay. It's important, at college, it's important to learn all these different things. One of the things, the reason why they tell you to take all these different sciences in a liberal arts college is because you need to have science, philosophy, all these different liberal arts courses to be able to have a well-rounded education, right? So we're going to give you a little taste here.
Action.
Yeah.
Is that energy cannot be created?
Yeah.
Very good, my friend. Very good for all. Now, well, that's the first. The first law.
Okay, that's
Now we have some engineers in the audience.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. First of all, let's break it down. Thermodynamics, right, is the study of matter and energy.
Yeah.
That's what thermodynamics is.
That is intense.
It's a study of matter and energy, right? And the second law of thermodynamics, in layman's terms, I'm not going to give you the whole definition.
So lame.
But layman's terms states that the universe is running out of usable energy. Kind of like a car and gas. When you use your car, what happens to the gas?
Gets used.
It runs down. Does it magically get more gas? No. You actually have to stop your car, or actually bring it to a gas station, and put more gas in there. You with me here?
Bro, we don't know, bro. In the city.
Right? Does it magically, like, boom?
Yes.
Gas comes
I wish.
out of nowhere.
That'd be nice. For free.
Right? Okay.
That's true.
Now, so a car runs out of gas. Now, the first law of thermodynamics is stating that the energy within the universe is constant.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, the gas in the car stays constant. I mean, it's not going to automatically like increase unless somebody else comes and puts more in it. You with me here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's also interesting about the second law of thermodynamics here, because we're talking about the second law, is the fact that it's also called the law of entropy.
Yeah.
Right? So, as we look at the whole concept of entropy, is that entropy will increase. So, disorder will increase. So, for example, if you're going inside your room, in and out of your room, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, what's going to happen?
It gets dirty.
Your bedroom's going to get more and more messy. Okay? So, if your bedroom's getting more and more messy, is it going to magically clean itself up?
No.
Right? It's not going to do that, right? You've got to actually go back in there and clean it up. Like I had to go and spread my bed this morning.
Amen.
Right? I'm not going to walk back in and, oh my God. I mean, pleated bedroom, I mean, the sheets perfect, everything done.
Yes, we did it.
Right? understand that order leads to disorder. Right? Disorder does not lead to order without an outside influence. Right? If we look at a house that's unattended, what's going to happen to the house over time?
Break down.
It's going to break down and run down. The only way that the house is going to stay stable is if someone's in there keeping it fresh, right? These are obvious statements. Okay, so the key thing here is that the second law of thermodynamics shows us that you can't just, like, all of a sudden, matter doesn't just, boop, exist. We can't have nothing and then something. Like, for example, there was a table here, was there not?
Yeah.
Okay. Where'd it go?
It became a basketball.
Right. So did it just move by itself?
No.
Right. No. If there was nothing here, could something spontaneously just all of a sudden, boom, table there?
Star Wars.
Right? You want to do a little Star Wars? Oh, snap! Right?
There is nothing wrong with Harry Potter.
So in a closed system, right? Matter's not all of a sudden going to pop up.
Yeah.
You with me here?
Right.
So the question is how did all this begin? Because the reason why I put in the beginning was a great sir is because this is the way you're going to be able to remember it. Okay? Give me a little mnemonics there. Okay? The second law of thermodynamics. So the key thing here is understanding that this order doesn't lead to order. So how could all this have happened without an outside influence? Well, let's keep studying this out. Number two is the universe is expanding. Now this is a very interesting point as well. Why is this interesting? Well, the universe is not expanding it's not expanding into empty space. The universe is not expanding, but space itself is expanding. So there was no space before the Big Bang. The scientists confirm it. There was no space before the Big Bang. There was no matter before the Big Bang. You with me here? So time, space, matter all came in existence, boom! At the Big Bang. That's pretty unique right there. That's very unique. So, the question here is, the universe, if it's continuing to expand, and the Hubble telescope and all these different people, all these different scientists tell us that, could the universe still be expanding if the universe always existed?
No.
There's no way. It couldn't be expanding, it would be done. It would be over. So how could the universe be expanding if the universe always existed? Remember, what's the key theme? What's the key question we have here? What's the key premise we're looking at? The law of causality, right? Everything that had a beginning had a cause. The universe had a beginning, and therefore the universe had a cause. So what are we looking at right now? What was the cause that helped the universe have a beginning? We're going to take questions at the end. What was the cause that had the universe have a beginning? So most people say the Big Bang. Okay, let's examine that. Saying that's true, let's examine that. Number three is radiation from the Big Bang. What's interesting about this is back in 1965, there are two scientists. Their name is Penzias and Wilson. And these two guys detected some strange radiation on their antenna. And they were in these Bell laboratories in New Jersey. And these guys actually won the Nobel Prize. You know why they won the Nobel Prize?
No.
Because this radiation was from the afterglow from the Big Bang fireball explosion.
What?
They gave them the Nobel Prize because they said, you guys have now seen the afterglow, discovered the afterglow from the Big Bang explosion, right? This cosmic background radiation. They got the Nobel Prize for this. Now what's interesting is to see that if that's true, which I don't say it can be, then what does that mean? Has the universe always existed?
No.
So then who created it? Okay. What's also interesting is the great galaxy seeds. Now you're probably wondering, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Well, I looked it up.
I think so.
I looked it up. Hang on one second.
We put it to see. Apollos was the guy needed to
I looked it up just for you guys. So I looked it up. And let me explain to you how cool this is. Basically, what's cool about this is that after finding the predicted expanding universe and radiation afterglow, right? Scientists turned their attention to another prediction that would have come